Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. This week we are talking together about some of the titles used for Jesus and what they mean for our lives. The first one for today, ransom, ought to mean something to those of us in this congregation because it's closely related to the title Redeemer, too. The word is ransom. I remember a story I heard a long time ago about a little boy who spent hours with a pocket knife carving a boat out of a block of wood. He worked hard carving details like portholes, a wheelhouse, and a hole for the mast he would glue in later. He painted the whole thing with care, put the mast on, attached a sail, and then took it down to the river to play. All day he had such fun playing with the boat in the gentle current near the edge. But then somehow the boat got too far out, and the swift current in the middle caught it, and the boat started traveling downstream. The boy couldn't reach it, nor could he keep up. His boat was gone. He walked home, sad and dejected. A few days later, his father took him into the city by the lake. As his father conducted some business, the boy looked in the window of a nearby toy shop, and there in the window was his boat. He ran inside. "Hey, mister," he said, pointing, "that's my boat." "It's yours for $7.99 plus tax," the shopkeeper said, and the boy left with his head hung low. He didn't have $3, much less $7.99 plus tax. But on the way home, he said, "Dad, if I did extra chores around the house, could I earn some extra money?" His father agreed. That night, they created a list of jobs and assigned a value to each one. "Washing dishes is 50 cents, his father said. "Raking the whole yard, $1. For 2 weeks, the boy did the extra jobs without saying a word about being tired or any other complaint. And then when his father went back to town, the boy went along, marched into the toy store, planted the money on the counter, picked up his boat, and went outside. "Now," he said, "I have made you, and I have bought you too. You are twice mine." My friends, God has made us, and he has bought us with the love and blood of Jesus. We have been redeemed. The price has been paid. We belong to God now and forever. Servant. Most of us don't aspire to be a servant. Usually when we ask our children or grandchildren what they want to be when they grow up, we hear things like astronaut, pro athlete, president of the United States, a teacher, maybe even a preacher. Nobody says they want to grow up to be a servant. And yet I think there is no higher calling. At least that's what Jesus seemed to think. Over and over throughout the Gospels, Jesus talked about the importance of being a servant. When James and John wanted a special place of honor, Jesus answered them by talking about being the greatest in God's eyes by being a servant to others. He often said things like, "The first shall be last and the last first," and things like, "The Son of Man came to serve." And in the last week of his earthly life, he took a bowl and a towel, and he washed the feet of his disciples, telling them that this was a sign of the servanthood and model of how they should live. Isaiah said God's words long before, "Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen in whom I delight. I will put my spirit upon him." It was more than what he taught, you know. It was also what he did. Don't you realize? This Jesus, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, exalted in the heavens with all the authority and might in the whole universe. This Jesus gave all that up and became one of us. Why? For you. Jesus came and Jesus died for you. Jesus came to serve you. So what do you want to be when you grow up? May we hope to be a servant. Son of David. There were a lot of things the Messiah could be, everyone knew. There were a lot of roles the Messiah could assume, and many ways he could appear, but they were all debated and discussed by the faithful. But one thing everyone knew, the Messiah must be a son of David. The Messiah must come from David's line. He must have David for an ancestor. And just like he fulfilled all the other things we needed, Jesus fulfills this too. It's really quite a remarkable line of individuals, this line of David. There's Solomon, who built God's temple and who was so incredibly wise. There was Uzziah, king when Isaiah prophesied, and Hezekiah, one of Israel's greatest kings. Later on, there's Josiah, a king of great faith who renewed the faith of the whole nation. Before David in this line was Ruth, a woman of loyalty and faith. And on before that, Judah and Jacob and Isaac and Abraham. It's an incredible line of people who dared and did great things for God, people who lived great lives of faith. And guess what? This is our family tree. Although we have different physical lineages, this line of David is our line too, because in Jesus we are heirs of the promise. We're part of this great line with a great heritage of faith behind us. And of course, the question is, what legacy of faith will we leave? I don't know what you think, but I believe that God has put each of us here, and the moments we are made for are before us, waiting to be embraced. Son of David. It was an incredible line, and Jesus fit the bill perfectly. In our lives, may we hear and answer the call. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.